I'm going to show you some numbers that will haunt your dreams. Let's say you want $1 US. Simple enough, right? And you're willing to pay Canadian for it. That'll cost you about $1.37 Canadian. But now, let's pretend you're in Argentina and you want US dollars. 20 years ago, you'd have to pay the equivalent of about $2.94, which, is not great, but whatever. Today, you'd have to pay, let's cross that out, around $353.82. And that's for $1 US. But here's the nightmare. Not only are Argentines desperate to make this trade, right? This amount of money for that amount of money. They're actually willing to do it at a huge loss, paying sometimes up to 3 times that amount on the black market for $1 US. Anything to ditch their local currency and put their life savings into something that will hold value a little better. Why the panic?
Argentina's annual inflation rate shot up to 124% in August. That's a record high in more than 3 decades.
That's right, 124% in August, and more recently, 143% in October. We as Canadians struggled in the single digits, and they're over there paying 2,000 pesos for a Big Mac.
It's hard. Whatever one thing costs today, tomorrow costs a little more. We're always racing against the clock, searching and searching.
Argentina is caught in a cycle of economic crisis. The peso is depreciating, the central bank has negative reserves, and the economy is flagging.
Translation, cry for Argentina. But the man who just won the presidency on Sunday is no pushover. Javier Milei crushed his opponent by the widest margin we've seen in Argentina in decades, more than 10 percentage points. He's brash, aggressive, he was literally known for bringing a chainsaw to rallies, and his plan to save Argentina's economy involves blowing it up.
Por lo tanto, digamos, si consideramos que robar está mal, uno de los mayores ladrones de la historia de la humanidad es el Banco Central.
Milei puts a lot of the blame for Argentina's broken economy at the feet of the central bank. Like the Bank of Canada or the Federal Reserve, they pull the levers, right? So Milei's plan is to just get rid of it.
Argentina has this endless cycle of economic crises, and it has to do with chronically spending more than it takes in taxes. It borrows so much that it loses access to capital markets, and so the only way it can pay its bills is by printing money. And as with any country that prints money recklessly, it ends up with inflation.
But if you get rid of the central bank, what fills that void? How do you manage the national currency, the Argentine peso? Well, there's the trick. You get rid of that too. You cut the bank, you cut the peso, and you install the almighty US dollar as king.
Argentines have just given up on their own currency. It loses value so fast, they have an expression that it just burns up in your pockets. And so they spend all their lives just hunting for dollars they can use to save.
Now, this is a plan with huge risks. Dollarizing the economy basically means hitching your wagon to American monetary policy. The US will manage things like interest rates in the US interest, and Argentina would just kind of be along for the ride. They couldn't devalue the currency, they couldn't print more money. They'd get the stability of the US dollar, but everything's out of their hands. And Argentina is kind of broke to begin with. Buying up large quantities of US dollars and turning that into their country's only currency may prove to be more expensive than they can afford. So there are other things on the chopping block too.
2019, you had a Ministry of Women and Diversity created in this country for the first time. What does that ministry do?
Bueno, supuestamente se dedica a ocuparse de los temas vinculados a las mujeres. Sin embargo, cuando uno mira los resultados, no han logrado ningún resultado.
Tucker Carlson, former host at Fox News, traveled to Argentina a few months ago for an interview with Milei. Have a listen to how he answered a question about how Argentina got into its current economic mess.
Que es la idea que donde hay una necesidad nace un derecho. Y eso es un problema porque las necesidades son infinitas y los derechos alguien los tiene que pagar. Y el problema es que los recursos son finitos. Entonces, frente a la situación de necesidades infinitas y recursos finitos, aparece un conflicto.
Accordingly, Milei wants to slash bureaucracy by closing several ministries: women and diversity, culture, health and education, among others, welfare payments, government subsidies, spending, taxes, they would all be slashed. But eliminating what he calls the socialist agenda goes a bit further than just fiscal policy. Milei is a self-described anarcho-capitalist, a libertarian whose core belief is that freedom trumps all. And that guides much of what he has promised to do as president. Milei is a man unafraid of being offensive.
¡Zurdos, hijos de puta, tiemblen! ¡La libertad avanza! ¡Viva la libertad, carajo! ¡Vamos!
As a television pundit, he has called the Pope a filthy leftist and an imbecile. A Pope who, by the way, is Argentinian. He's talked about how often he ejaculates.
He's a very eccentric figure. He's kind of the prototypical outsider. He was a rock star and a soccer player. He has long moppy hair. He cloned his pet dogs and he calls them his senior advisors.
And famously, he said in one interview, the state is a pedophile in the kindergarten with the children chained up and bathed in Vaseline. That's a really disturbing mental image. Unless you think something just got lost in translation, here's the clip.
El Estado es el pedófilo en el jardín de infantes, con los nenes encadenados y bañados en vaselina.
His social policies have divided Argentinians as well. He wants to reopen the abortion debate, something the country only legalized 3 years ago. He's called sex education a form of brainwashing. He is in favor of allowing the sale of human organs and climate change.
Do you see the climate change movement as part of the same socialist agenda?
Sí, es parte de la agenda socialista.
Milei has also embraced conspiracy theories. For months before election night, he claimed the whole electoral process was rigged against him. According to the New York Times, he had warned that if he lost on Sunday, it may have been because the vote was stolen. But once it started looking like he was going to, in fact, win, he said the election was clean.
It was a bit concerning because it does suggest that if he had not won, or if he had come very close to, winning, he would have probably played that card.
An unofficial slogan of the Javier Milei campaign, "Make Argentina great again."
This will be an extraordinary shift in Argentine politics. Now you have someone who brings a chainsaw to his rallies, and what it means for him is a metaphor for cutting down to size Argentina's welfare state.
There is no doubt Argentina is a country that has fallen from grace. At one time, among the wealthiest countries on the planet, it is now a place where 40% of the population lives in poverty. Its citizens have been hungry for change.
Peor gobierno de la historia de la Argentina después de la democracia y por eso decidí votar un cambio.
Estoy de acuerdo con todas sus políticas sociales, pero sí con la mayoría de las económicas.
No me convence del todo, pero que muestra algo diferente y bueno, hay que, para mi gusto, darle la oportunidad.
What Milei does with this opportunity is the next big question. He may struggle. Despite winning the presidency, his party controls just a small part of Argentina's lower house and Senate. But for a man dubbed El Loco, the madman, the TV star turned politician who smashed a central bank piñata on live TV. No, cuidado, no, cuidado, acá, put his own face on banknotes and promised to upend a broken government that mismanaged a broken economy. Whatever happens, may very well be worth watching.